Julian Bashir hates the carpet on the USS Sao Paulo. Jeffrey Combs has a very busy week in the makeup chair. And Lita and Impella want to keep more of their tips, and Quark is going to think about it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we're doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 7, Episode 24, The Dogs of War. This is a dream team right here. Story by Peter Allen Fields. Teleplay by Renee Echevarria and Ronald D. Moore. Directed by Avery Brooks. This was May 26th, 1999. Where were you? We have a very special guest today. Mr. Armin Shimerman is joining us.
Hello, hello, hello.
And of course, It is a Nog episode. Melissa Longo is also here.
Hi. Hi.
Yay.
We have so much to talk about.
Yay.
Before we do, though, very quickly, we have a very special thanks to give out to Bill Erickson, a.k.a. War Dog Heim. Everybody knows and loves Bill Erickson. So thank you for sponsoring this episode, Bill. He's been waiting
for the Dogs of War.
Almost a year. Almost a year.
Yeah, he's been calling it out. Dogs of War, Dogs of War.
How you guys doing?
Yeah, okay. Doing good. Doing very good. I love this episode. I thought it just layered. It was so much in this episode. Like halfway through, I was thinking, this is a full episode just in the first half already. That was that much in it.
Seriously. It felt like the three storylines felt like they could have been episodes unto themselves, right? Like there was Armin's full episode. It felt like he went through. There was what was going on Cardassia. There was Julian and Esri and all that stuff. But Armin, first things first, right before we hit record, you said you're wearing your special Deep Space Nine jacket that says Armin on it. When'd you get that?
When did I get
in the
that?
90s?
I mean, was it like first season, seventh season?
92 or 3, maybe? Probably some orange makeup. See, it has no collar.
Because they usually have the big collar.
I would wear to the makeup trailer, but so that Karen, with no collar, Karen could work on the back and the side of the neck without interfering with having any interference in the clothes.
Karen Westerfield.
So you removed the collar.
They did when they gave it to me. Did. Yeah, when I got it, we all got one.
I got one, but mine has the high collar.
Yeah. Mine had the collar was never on, and I think they must have understood that I was going to probably in the early mornings be wearing it in the makeup trailer, and it would get in the way of the makeup process.
What a cool jacket. I don't even know where my jacket is. I've lost a lot of that stuff that they gave me over the years.
Got some stuff on the wall behind you that I recognize.
I do have some of those. Those are definitely something I cherish. But we got a lot of very good gifts throughout the years. Thank you to the art department and all of the departments that were involved in giving out gifts during the holidays and at the end of the season. So definitely grateful for those goodies.
Hey, Carmen, sorry, I was just going to say, can we just ask you just to open this up? If you remember what the mood was like, this was the penultimate episode. This was the second to last episode. Everybody knew it. Everybody was aware of it. Can you tell us what your mood was or what the mood was around the set? I almost said the station. What was it like?
Well, it was slightly melancholic because we knew we were getting to the end. I don't think it was despairing. I don't think anyone was, beating their chests because we were coming to an end. It had been 7 years for a lot of us, and we knew that things had to come to an end. But there was some sadness, of course, that we were coming to an end. So it was a little of both. And I for one was sort of upset, but grateful because really I didn't know what else the writers could possibly do with my character. They could do a lot with some of the others. I think Cirroc's character could have gone on for another 7 years, certainly.
Here.
But my character had sort of fleshed out everything that he was going to do. There's more from Nog to do. There was more perhaps for Ram to do. But Quark had run his course. I'm sure there more storylines could have been invented, but I was happy with what we had done.
Yeah, and this is a great episode that gets into a lot of the mindset between the old Ferengi and the new Ferengi of what Ferengi is going to become. Right. Was there any input on this direction, or was this something that you kind of accepted as Quark's destiny?
As usual, there wasn't I didn't have any input into what they were writing. I do remember in this episode, a very sort of strange thing occurred to me, which was bizarre considering it was the penultimate episode of Deep Space Nine. Mm-hmm. I got an early script. I don't know how that happened, because usually I didn't get an early script. And it had certain things in it. And then about 4 or 5 days later, I got the script that you are aware of, the one that actually got shot. And it had changed somewhat, at least my story had changed. And I was told that, I said, well, why did we have these changes? Not that I was upset, just asking why. And they said, oh, Berman revised the script. Now, for 7 years, I did not think Berman had anything to do with it.
Yeah. Where'd he come from?
And I went, really? He has oversight on the scripts and he makes changes? And they said, yeah, he did. And that was an epiphany for me. And considering how long I've been serving on that show, it's strange to me that I didn't know that until the very end. And the other thing about this story that I remember a great deal is I was very much aware that many of the characters had very interesting character arcs. People changed. I could see how Kira had changed. I could see how Sisko had changed. I could see how Bashir had changed. And I thought, before this episode, I thought Quark hasn't really changed at all. He's just pretty much the same charlatan that he'd always been. But this script showed me, and it was, again, an epiphany, that, oh my God, he's changed a great deal. He's a long way from where that first season was. And it wasn't until I read this script and became involved with this script that I realized that subtly I had been changing a lot, and just the actor had not been aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Was one of those changes to keep Quark from becoming the Nagus? I read that was producer's choice as to not have Quark become the Nagus because they felt like he was the heart of Deep Space Nine. So they wanted him to remain there on the station. Was that one of the changes, or
no? But I totally agree with the producer's choice. That's the first I'm hearing of this, Malissa. That was a possibility. Quark is in no way capable of being the Nagus, as far as I'm concerned. Whereas Rom is, and certainly Nog could have been as well if that's the direction he had gone in. But I don't think Quark would have made a good Nagus, and I think Rom would. So no, the changes were Quark. I realized with this episode had become homogenized by living with the humans and the humans and the Bajorans, and that he had become, and I'm going to put this in quotation marks, more human. And I didn't realize that. It had always been my agenda, as I've said many times, to make the Ferengi, especially my character, more three-dimensional, more human, more of a character that people could connect with and recognize themselves in that character. But I hadn't realized to the extent that writers and I had succeeded in that. And that this episode really brought home that there had been a great deal of change, a great deal more humanity in the character than had originally been there. And as I said, it was a surprise to me. It wasn't until I read the episode and went, oh my God, yes, I've changed a great deal.
No, that's really interesting. I would think that based on what you said there, and I agree, like it was a very slow change. So you don't really notice it day by day. But then when you look back 7 years, you do. But I feel like you as an actor adding so much depth, more depth to Quark, the character, than I think the writers had initially intended. And that was, and you deliberately did this. You wanted to create a character more so than a caricature. And I submit, I think that the fact that you were able to do that really gave characters like Rom and Nog and Brunt more to work with, more scripts with them in it, more roles, because your growth, your rising tide was raising all the ships around you, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense, and it's very flattering. Thank you very much. Perhaps I'm going to agree with you, but I'm also going to say one of the things I didn't do very well, and which gave the other characters that you just mentioned the opportunity to do a little bit more, because it's not that I failed in this area. I'm going to tell you what it is in a moment. Mm-hmm. But it's just that I wasn't as good as they were. And that is, I wasn't really good at farce. And what I mean by that is to be significantly over the top. Yes, Quark is over the top somewhat. But if you needed a character to be really over the top, the other three people that you just mentioned, Jeff, Aaron, Max, they were quite good at that.
Zach.
They were very good at that.
Yeah.
And so when the writers wanted to write out-and-out farce, out-and-out outlandish comedy, and Ira once told me this, they realized pretty quickly on, don't give it to Armin, give it to one of the other
three. I felt like, now that you're having this kind of enlightenment about what was going on at the time, I was changing my perspective of what I saw. And specifically, I wrote down the Quark's Archie Bunker moment. I felt like you went Archie Bunker in this episode at some point. Like, hey, whatever happened to the, rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, and the good old days, and
it's those good old days. I had not realized that I had changed significantly from that frame of mind.
Right. Yeah.
And that episode reminded me, oh my God, yes, you have. Yes, you have.
Yeah.
So
you're
absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it changes the way I see it. At first I thought I said, well, Quark hasn't changed. He's still stuck on that. But I think you're really now, as you're having this conversation, it seems more like this is what Quark has changed from. He's going through the list of things that he used to be, and things that he was accustomed to, and he's going to what have we come to if you can't ask sexual favors from the people you employ? It seems like you're saying this is where I've come from.
That's my Harvey Weinstein moment. Yes.
Yes, yeah, but it's also like, I don't know. You really made me cry in this episode. I felt very emotional about watching you in this episode. Specifically, the brother moment between you and Rom, I just thought it was as good as it gets, and as authentic as it gets as far as feelings that were conveyed in the performance. So I was very moved by it, but I also was very intrigued by your performances with Avery, opposite Avery in this episode. What were some of the things? Because there was a moment that I felt like was an Avery moment. Maybe he got it out of you, or maybe you just added this yourself. I'd like to know. But it was the moment when the camera pans across the table and closes up on you on the moment when you're just taking in the fact that you're going to be the Grand Nagus, the new Grand Nagus, and you just make this sound. And I was like, where did that sound come? Was it in the script? Was it just in the moment? Was it something that you discussed with Avery about, doing something?
Yeah, Avery was directing, yeah.
Yeah, but I love that moment, and it seemed like a moment that he kind of would encourage you to just yeah.
I hate to burst your bubble, but I don't think Avery had any input into that whatsoever. He was the director, so he could have told me not to do it. So I guess he not telling me not to do it. That's right. He said okay, but I don't. Avery was a very good director. He gave you lots of things to think about while you were shooting scenes, for which I'm enormously grateful. But I don't remember him having any input into that.
I love the choice. I love the choice.
Something that either I had chosen to do while preparing to do the scene, or something that just came out while I was shooting the scene. If I try to leave myself open while the camera is running, especially if we've already gotten one in the can already. By that I mean we've already got one print done already. To just whatever happens. If it's already one in the can, they've got what they need. Right. But they they often will try to get another one as well. And if I know you've already printed one that you're happy with, then I can pretty much do anything as an actor, and maybe some magic will happen then. So that's maybe what happened.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was magical. It was no words, just But it was. I literally rewound it about 10 times. It just was laughing. I love this with you and Nagus when he calls in and he says, the static is breaking up, and he says, "If you know what I mean," and he's talking about going to Ryza with your mom, and you do this kind of like "good for you" type of facial expression. I love the moments there. They were so special.
Well, I understand, and Malissa is fully aware of this. At this point, all the Ferengi, including oh God, I'm just an old
Nagus.
No, the
Nagus. Zek,
Zek,
including Wally. We're all family. We understand each other very well. We've constructed an ensemble that we're very proud of, and we know each other's quirks, and so that's something that came out of all the years of being together, which, that group of people were very tight, as I'm sure the people that surrounded your character were very tight, as the people who surrounded Nana's character were very tight, as the people certainly who surrounded Avery's character were very tight, because they had worked with each other and were an ensemble. We were mini ensembles within an ensemble.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Except for Dorn, right? Not Dorn.
No, we love Michael. I wanted to say, though, I did think it was special because there were a few people that we had worked with all this time that finally got a little bit more shine than they usually get.
That's right. There were two, and you mentioned
Impala.
Yeah.
And David, who was there from day one, who was the Ferengi that never had any lines.
Broik? Yeah.
Broik.
Yeah, he got some love.
Very happy about getting Broik. He was very
the two of them got some love.
Yeah.
Yes. And, finally.
It's a tribute. Tribute is the wrong word. It is a kindness, more than a kindness, but it is a kindness to the writers and the producers, saying, you know what, these guys have been here since day one, and they've never really been sufficiently recognized, and we're going to recognize them, right now.
Beautiful.
Morn became an action figure doll, but these guys actually got lines, which I think for them was probably more important.
That's true. There is a Morn, but there is not a Broik, and there is not an Impella.
No.
I thought it was special that they gave them the opportunity to speak, because they had been working alongside us this whole time, playing background essentially. And
in David's case, he was my stand-in, and we worked like a team, David and I. I would go and get final touches on makeup or look over the lines or whatever, and David would be in front of the camera with the camera crew as they're working out the blocking, and I always when I was called back on the set, went immediately to David and said, "What do I need to know about the camera blocking?" And he would always tell me, and I was always a little bit ahead of the schedule because of Dave's ability to inform me what I needed to know.
Oh,
what a valuable player! What a valuable guy!
And he doesn't get enough attention. And I owe a great deal to David. Because we worked as a team, we were a tag team. I did the performances, but he did the camera rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just a tribute to the kind of unsung contributors to this show, and I'm glad that the writers took the time out to give them some lines, increase their pay scale, and also give them a chance to speak on camera for their own legacy, to be able to look back on their days and contribution. I thought it was classic.
Very quickly,
just so that everybody knows the politics and the business, the show business, is that if you don't speak, I don't know if this includes Morn or not. It certainly didn't include the Nagus's bodyguard.
My Hardu.
If you don't speak, you don't get a residual. Unless it's worked out that you can through your billing or something. So these guys who were there for 7 years and didn't speak and had to get made up as much as Aaron and Max and I did, they didn't get any money for residuals for the episodes we planned. Because they got lines in this last episode, they got some extra money, which is very nice.
I just wanted to add that David B. Levinson, I believe is his name. He played Broik all the way back season 1, episode 2. So from the very beginning, and he was in 39 episodes, which is amazing. That's almost as many as Aaron, who did 47. And the lady that did Impella was Kathy DeBuono. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Sounds Italian. But she was in a great many episodes as well.
She was also Terry stand-in for fights.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, she was Terry stand-in for fights. She was a stunt person. I think she may have started out as a stunt person and then matriculated to being a background. And I believe, Cirroc, help me here. I believe Kathy was Terry's stand-in, as David was my stand-in.
Yes.
I believe Kathy was Terry's stand-in, not from the beginning, but
at some point, at some point past the 3rd or 4th season. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And she was in 18 episodes as an actress.
Yeah. And remember, that's just the episodes that she appeared in. Like David, there's going to be a lot of episodes where they didn't appear, but they stood in for us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And those stand-ins do a lot of the dirty work when it comes to taking measurements from the camera, when they're tracking which which way they're going to move the camera. Those guys are standing there for the lighting, for while they're assembling and setting up lights. So there's a lot of dirty work that they do. And John Bennett was the man who would stand in for Avery Brooks. I remember John Bennett also being in a few episodes on camera, but also being a great stand-in. So,
who was your stand-in, Cirroc? Who was your stand-in? Do you remember?
Todd. My stand-in was Todd.
Really? Todd was your stand-in?
Yeah. Well, when I got tall enough.
Didn't you have? I was going to say you should have gotten one like every season, like a different person.
Exactly. It was different sizes at different times, but at some point, Todd was my longest running stand-in. But yeah, these guys put in the work. They were right alongside us the whole time, and they were in the trenches. They did the late nights. They did the makeup. They were sometimes reading scripts. But they did work, so kudos to them, and also for being alongside us in the trenches as we made this show.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to take a quick break here, everybody. We're going to come right back. We're going to talk about Armin, Quark, the Grand Nagus, all of it. This episode is amazing. Deep Space Nine is fantastic, and we appreciate Armin for joining us. Stick around. We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, Melissa Longo, and Armin Shimerman. And me. Here are the trivioids of the week. You know what we're doing. We're reviewing Deep Space Nine, Season 7, Episode 24, The Dogs of War. Here they are. Worf's assessment is that Julian Bashir is an overgrown child. Julian Bashir hates the carpet on the USS Sao Paulo. Cardassia is as beautiful as Garrick remembers. Gul Revok has betrayed the resistance. Seskul is in charge of the bridge for like 15 seconds. Bashir certifies Odo fit for duty. Lita and Impella want to keep more of their tips, and Quark is going to think about it. Grand Nagus Zek and Ishka are retiring to Risa. The Dominion has destroyed 18 rebel bases. Jeffrey Combs has a very busy week in the makeup chair. All bribes are tax deductible on Ferenginar, which was brilliant. Kira peels the label off a bottle of Cardassian booze. Before we move on, can I just point out that was the second episode for Seskul, the Cardassian. That was Damar, if you'll recall, Cirroc.
Played by Vaughn Armstrong.
That's exactly it. And I was so excited to see him again, and then they killed him so fast.
I think he holds the record, or is close to the record, of the most characters on Star Trek. I think
I think the most deaths too.
Yeah, I was gonna say he blew up very well. He did that very well.
What was his character's name? Seskul?
Yeah, Seskal, I believe. Seskal. But it was great to see him again. And he's immediately recognizable. Mm-hmm. And I just
he comes back as Ebert. No.
Oh, excellent.
Sorry about
Exquisite.
That.
Wow.
Excellent. Sorry about that, everybody.
All right. Armin, I have a question for you that kind of was popping up in my head as I was watching this episode and just thinking about who you are and you know, some of your passions in life, specifically Shakespeare. And the question that I came up with was, which Shakespeare character most closely resembles Quark?
Well, the easy answer to that, but not necessarily my answer, but the easy answer is Shylock. But there are others.
Well, why Shylock?
Why Shylock? Because Shylock has a very hard scene for an actor to play, where he's just lost his daughter and he can't decide what is the greater loss: his fortune, which his daughter has just ripped off from him, or his daughter. And he has to go back and forth very quickly. My daughter, my ducats, my daughter, my ducats, my daughter, my ducats. And then I imagine most people would think of as a very Quark-like moment. But another reason to say Shylock, now that I think about it, is that Shylock is a Jew living in a Christian society. He has to learn how to live in a foreign environment. And I imagine that Rom and Quark have the same problem, is that they are Ferengi living in a Bajoran environment, or a Cardassian environment, and they have to learn the ways and cultures and mores of a different culture in order to survive, in order to live in that culture. So in that way, they are also similar.
Wow, good stuff. So we did get a little bit also, I mentioned him a minute ago, of Nog, Aaron Eisenberg playing Nog. I remembered him being more in this episode, but I think it's just because the Ferengi were such a big part of this episode. We had Nog, we had Wallace Shawn, playing Zek. We had Mai Hardu, you mentioned before. We had Ishka, Broik. We had Brunt. Even this was like the whole Ferengi family coming in together. And Armin, you have famously, talked about everybody coming together at your place to rehearse lines. Was that like a really full house that weekend before?
I think that's one of the times when we didn't get together. I think I may have thought a long time ago. But I think I may have thought at this point we didn't need to. We pretty much knew what was going to happen. It is possible It is possible that Aaron and Max might have come over to rehearse that, but I don't remember. I know that I always did that, but I don't remember doing it necessarily for this episode. But they could have. And I must say, I was talking about arcs before, about changes in the character. Is there any character on our show that had more of an arc than Nog?
No.
Nog's character is night and day from that first episode to the last.
The quick answer is no.
Incredible story. It's an incredible story arc. And Aaron, being the exquisite actor that he was able to handle that very well.
Armin, there's so many great lines that you deliver in this episode. One in particular that I want to talk about is when you're telling your mom, when you're telling Moogie about Rom, and you say he's an idiot, and you basically matter-of-factly call him an idiot, and you actually call him the one twice at the end of this episode as well, when you're talking directly to Rom. You're an idiot, but I love you. Is there part of Quark that thinks Rom's being an idiot is directly connected to his goodwill and his good nature?
I don't think so. At least that's not what I ever thought, Cirroc. I certainly had to call Rom an idiot. That was
yes. And you're very great at. You're very good at it. It's definitely like a brother.
Nailed it.
May have been a character arc. I may have actually thought it was an idiot in the first couple of seasons, but the love for Max eventually changed all that. So no, I think if you ask Quark and not Armin, I think Quark would say that Rom is an idiot because he refuses to follow the Ferengi culture and try to improve himself financially. I think that's why he's an idiot. At least that's what I remember thinking. In the beginning, I probably thought that Quark thought that Rom was indeed an idiot, that he just was stupid. But I because of the love that matured between the two of us, I think I lost that particular feeling and went with this other one. Speaking of love and speaking of Rom, or what's more importantly, speaking of Max, this will air on Max's birthday. So happy birthday, Max.
Oh,
happy birthday, Max.
Yay. Yeah. The I love you line.
It'll be the next day in Austria. Sorry, Malissa.
Yes.
The I love you line was when he professed his love for Rom in front of the entire bar, was for me the pinnacle of us seeing Quark's growth and his journey and his arc, because in the beginning he would have never said that.
Yes.
In front of in front of witnesses, and two, may not have said it at all. So
yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I couldn't agree more. And I think, like we all know, that what the writers and producers would see in dailies that would not necessarily go into the episodes. What they saw there, they would draw upon and incorporate in later episodes because they saw what was there. And certainly it must have been obvious to everybody, the fondness, if not more than fondness, the love that, as I said, this ensemble of players all had for each other.
I was tearing up.
Well,
I was tearing up.
I know Aaron loved you very much. Very much.
And considering
Max,
what I said to all of them on camera,
you were just in character and a hell of a good character at that.
I hope they knew that. I'm sure they knew that, Cirroc.
Well, I was moved to tears actually watching the moment between you and your brother at the end of this episode when Rom says to you, "That's all right, brother. I'll give it to you."
Yeah.
And he didn't make you beg for it. He didn't make you grovel. he whispered it actually, and he followed that up with "You're my brother," and it was just so, man, it was so crazy how much I was moved by it. And you called him an idiot, but then told him I love you right after that, and I was like, this is such the best moment I've seen. One of the best moments I've seen, a brother moment in anything, because that's like a real brother moment. Like, I'm not gonna. I know I swindled you for the 5,000 when you could have negotiated me up to 8, and this and that and all of that, but he basically says, I'll give it back to you. It's your bar. I love you as a brother. And I thought that moment was special. I'd love to see the whole family together as well at the inside of Quark's. But I just feel like, Quark is such a lovable person. And it's funny because you wouldn't expect that in the beginning going into the show, that he would be somebody that you fall in love with so much as a viewer. You expect that he's going to be the guy that you're like, kind of upset with, or thought he would be trying to cheat you, but he actually he gives more than he takes in a lot of instances.
Yeah.
And what he gives as a character is more, as far as emotional support, as far as willing to risk his own livelihood in many instances. He's willing to do all of those things for his friends and the people around him. And what he takes is just a simple monetary tax, and a simple, it's a simple service fee, but you do the service, and I really admire that about your portrayal of Quark throughout these years. It's just been such a pleasure to watch.
Well, thank you. I will go a little bit further and say one of the focuses or foci of the writers, which was manifested not only with the Ferengi, but also with you, Cirroc, is they had certainly Ira, had a great desire to talk about families and to show the love and discord in family situations. And that I think is one of the things that makes our show a little bit different, perhaps a little bit better, because we weren't just about phasers and starships. We were about family relationships at times. The relationship between Jake and Sisko is incredible. Thanks to them, and certainly thanks to the two of you. Our family relationship was different. We have Miles O'Brien's family as well. Family was always in the background there, always impinging upon the choices that the characters were making. And I think it's a tribute to the writers that they did that. And we are moved because we recognize our own family relationships in those families. If you didn't identify with the Ferengi relationship, then certainly you would identify with the Sisko relationship. Again, it's something that the writers were interested in. Ira is very much interested in family, and it was manifested in the episodes that we did.
I wanted to bring something up as well that jumped out at me, and I don't remember if I actually remembered this or if I just imagined it, but you fully quoted Star Trek First Contact, which was the seventh movie.
No further. This far and no further.
And it felt like you even gave it a little bit of Patrick Stewart, just the dashiest dash of Patrick Stewart in there as like a wink to all the fans.
Yes.
Well, when I read it, I went, "Oh, I know this is a quote." So
you were in that movie.
So the actor specific, whether I meant to or not, I knew that it was a quote. And therefore, somewhere in my conscious, or perhaps in my subconscious, if there's a little bit of Patrick Stewart in there, then that's because my subconscious is telling me it's a quote. However, I also believe, since you know it's Patrick Stewart, you hear Patrick Stewart.
Yeah. Well, and there's
I didn't hear Patrick Stewart because I didn't know that's Patrick Stewart and that's a quote. What I heard was
you didn't hear Patrick Stewart in the
but I heard Shakespeare. I heard
that
I heard the performance of a Shakespeare type of play, the way it was delivered. So maybe that's
that. So yes, so there may be that connection, because certainly that was there. I certainly remember that. I remember that he was going to be very theatrical and epic.
Right.
No, this far and no further.
Yes.
And I remember, yes, that to me was a very Shakespearean line. I didn't get very many of those, but so I was going to make the most.
Yes, and you did. You hit it.
Be my second to last episode. I better get it right here.
You hit it too, because I swear I was like, that's the performance there. That's a Shakespeare performance. That's a moment right there that he took full advantage of. He said, "Oh, if you're going to give it to me, well, I'll take it."
Yeah, if you're going to lob that at me, I'm going to try to hit that.
Yes. Oh, that was great.
Yeah, I thought that too. But you also had a line that said, "This bar will be the last outpost of."
I didn't catch
culture.
that.
Yeah,
that's very good. I did not catch that.
Wow.
And here, God knows, 20 plus years later, I'm like, oh,
right. I know. Right. I was like, hey, wait a minute.
And for those who don't know, the first Ferengi first episode that the Ferengi appeared in The Next Generation is called The Last Outpost.
Wow, that is amazing. I love this. The stuff that I see that I don't even know that I see. It's pretty amazing.
You're going to have to watch it again. The whole series,
I have to.
From beginning to end, you're going to have to watch it all one more time.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
Darn.
That doesn't sound like Star Trek fans at all. Rewatching Star Trek after you've already finished it.
Yeah, right. That never happens. It's funny because there was a lot of politics as well in here, but my mind went a little bit more over to, like, I was envisioning, at least starting to envision what Quark's life would be like as Rom is the Nagus, Quark has his bar back, and I'm just thinking, is Quark's place like, Cheers, where it's just basically a fixture of the station, it's not going anywhere, and neither is he, or is there other things that would kind of entice him to make moves in life? Like, how do you see Quark?
Well, we have an answer to that slightly because of the shows that appeared after, way after Deep Space Nine. We learned that Quark's franchise has expanded.
Right.
And that he has, I don't know how many, 27, 37, 107, I don't know how many. 7 in there somewhere. More Quark's bars out there. And it's always interesting when people equate Quark's bar to Cheers, because of course we have Morn.
Right.
Morn
totally
backwards.
It's
certainly that character is based on the other character. I mean, one of the nice things, and I think I've said this before here, is that just as in TNG, but I think more so on Deep Space Nine, a lot of executive decisions were decided on in the bar, which was a way, of course, incorporating my character and the other Ferengi into the episode. But it's interesting that everybody would sort of let their hair down in the bar and make choices there, as opposed to making them, on the bridge or in ops. I think your character a lot of times made his choices in the promenade, not necessarily in Quark's, although you did a lot of scenes in the bar as well.
Because it was the social place to kind of gather. We had all types of people there. Didn't necessarily have to drink to be in the bar. You could be doing other things, people watching, which I did a lot of.
Much to Quark's chagrin, if you were doing other things besides.
For free.
But also, just geographically, it's, when you mentioned that, it occurs to me, and you can both substantiate this. Maybe all three of you can. Which is Quark's was in the middle of the soundstage, so that if you came from any direction, when you got halfway through the soundstage, you had to end up at Quark's. It was, in other words, it was the hub of the set.
Location.
Yeah. That's what the realtor said when they sold you on it. Yeah. It's right across from the Bajoran Temple. It's next to the Replimat.
From Bashir's office as well, but it was right in the middle, so that you had to pass it one way or another.
Oh, so it was the heart.
And you can only imagine, because I mean, there literally would be a sound resonating from it, right? You would hear the sound of slot machines in Vegas type of sound, where you're hearing those bells and whistles and the ding 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 ding. So it would attract you via sound alone. Just Dabo, yay!
Yeah. And to this day, I still don't know whether Dabo means you won or you lost.
That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of the game. I know I won with a lot of Dabo girls, so that was a win for me.
Marta,
yes.
This is one particular costume that I always felt badly that one of the ladies had to wear. I think eventually the costume was retired, but you had to look a little like my female character on Deep Space Nine to wear that costume. And I went, if I stare at that too long, my marriage is over. So
where's my eyeline? Give me my
eyeline. Yeah. Can I get a mark?
I mean, they were brave. They were very brave women to wear that costume. It didn't cover. It didn't cover much.
I remember some of those. They were like really like see-through, lacy stuff. It was just so delicate too. On top of the fact that it was, transparent.
They had no bottom. They had no
right.
bottom.
There was one outfit that just came to here.
I don't think it came there. I think it just stood on.
Wow!
It covered the nipples, but that was everything underneath the nipple was.
It was all under boob.
Yeah,
Bob Blackman, God bless him. I don't know where he got that idea from, but
but thank God for it. There's a sadness that comes over me watching these final episodes. It's almost like I have to make up what's happening in the day-to-day of their lives on my own. And I don't get the connection and the fill-in on what's happening latest in their lives. But just the growth, you mentioned Nog's growth. I think it's really overall the Ferengi have grown in front of us, because we knew so little about them in the beginning. And towards the end here, we feel like we know a lot about them, from all ends of the spectrum, from how they used to be to how they are going to be, and everything in between. And I think the journey could not have been hosted by a better person, Armin, than you, because you really gave us so much by not playing it in a comedy way, by playing it serious, and by trying to send the messages out there of what they're talking about in the story. So kudos to you for approaching it in that way, because it lends so much credence to everybody else's ability to play with the character as well. So I believe Max gets an opportunity to play more, and so does Nog, and everybody gets more opportunity to play because you're being the center, and they get to be the polar extremes. And I thank you for that. It's been a really special journey watching Quark. And the other thing that I missed too is towards the end here is seeing you and Odo, because I thought that you and Odo had some really amazing moments as well. They didn't have any in this episode, but just in general, you guys had such a great, chess game of who's going to outsmart whom. So.
And I usually lost that chess game, but yes.
It was a draw. It was a draw.
It's pretty even.
It wasn't even. I played a lot of good chess players, and I'm I'm a rated chess player, in fact.
Really?
Or at least I was. And it's okay it's great actually to lose to a better player. So
I hate it.
In Quark's mind, at least in my mind, to lose to Odo wasn't so bad, since he was such an exceptional character, and of course, like the Ferengi family, Odo was part of that family as well. Not have admitted to it, but and I don't have to repeat what everybody knows, the bromance that Renee and I had. So that was special, yes. And thank you, Cirroc, for what you just said. Every actor wants their performances to be appreciated, so thank you.
And just to jump on top of that for a minute, we only have a couple minutes left, but I did want to add to it that it does feel like everything that we've been kind of talking about and the decision that you made to make Quark a tragic character rather than a comedic character, it not only, raised the tide around you, but it raised Deep Space Nine itself, the show. It expanded the show. It made Deep Space Nine a better show because it gave us all of the Ferengi storylines. It gave us more depth to what's going on in the heart of Deep Space Nine. And just, I was thinking about that while Cirroc was talking about, this decision that you made. It really had a ripple effect that affected the show on the grand scale. Episodes were written later on because of previous performances. And it just must be really, it must just be, very satisfying to know that you affected the show in such a great way, not just in the people in your immediate surroundings, but it kind of had that ripple effect.
Thank you. I will add to that two things. One is, again, let's go back to Shakespeare for a second. One of the things that Shakespeare knew, that in the middle of tragedies, you sometimes have to have some clown scenes. You have to have some comic relief. So we were able to provide that on occasion, to provide comic relief to whatever the series of the A story was. Two, I'll reiterate something I said earlier, which is besides all the adventure and the space and the things that were going wrong around us, and you, Cirroc, were part of that, as was Nog and everybody else involved in what I'm about to say, which is that we had all this Starfleet stuff happening, but we also had family stuff happening.
Totally.
And that sort of, just as you said, Ryan, that enhanced the aura of the show. Yes, there are family things happening in other Star Trek shows, absolutely. But I think ours did the most with that sort of thing as well. So that, how many times have we all heard people say, I used to watch your show with my father, with my mother, with my family, and we would sit down as a family unit and we would watch it together. So we were offering, and Jake and Sisko were doing the same thing. We were offering these elements of familial getting together that a family watching could identify with and allow them to say, as a family, what do we think about this episode that we just saw? They can open up and have debates with that. So I think, yes, our Ferengi culture expanded the universe of our show and perhaps of the whole franchise. But I also think it was enormously important for Ira, who was trying to expand the envelope of what Star Trek was.
Yeah. Other Star Trek.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Malissa.
I was going to say, I also think on a bigger scale that Deep Space Nine overall encompassed a family unit. As far as offshoots of the Ferengi family or Jake and Sisko, but as a whole, Deep Space Nine, the whole ensemble became a family of sorts, which includes Odo in all of that, and Kira and her relationship with Sisko and Dax, and it just feels like it became a much bigger thing. And I thought of one thing when Ryan was saying from the first episode, Sisko charges Quark to be the community leader, which he reluctantly takes on because he needs to get Nog out of trouble. And I thought, wow, what an amazing arc this show has had, not just Quark and all of the characters, but as a whole, this show has come full circle. These strangers have become a family unit, and how incredible is that? And I don't think any other show has explored it in that way.
Not to the extent that we did it. I totally agree with you, Melissa. They tried to do that in Voyager, but halfway through the first episode, that all those strangers all became, they all trusted each other. At first episode.
That was Aaron's
a very long time.
Yeah, exactly. You went through the hard stuff and laughed together, and you cried together, and
yeah. And I just want to piggyback one last thing on what you guys are saying. It's they often talk about the 6 degrees of separation that we all have from each other, that you can, everybody's only 6 people away from anybody else in the world. And what I felt like while I'm watching Deep Space Nine is I feel like there's like 3 degrees of separation or less, because it seems like everybody can get access to everybody else, right? It's like, don't make me call your uncle. I'll talk to your dad. My child. It's like everybody's relatively accessible, and kind of there is that familiar family type of vibe on the set as far as the closeness with characters. And I do agree with you, Armin. Family is really the common thread that we all have a first-hand knowledge and experience about. And I think that's one thing that's easy to identify when people, find themselves watching Deep Space Nine. It's easily relatable because it's something that we all go through, these kinds of things.
Absolutely. And I will share with you something I've heard. I don't agree with it, but many times people would say to me, because they're talking to me, would say, the only reason I watched that show was to see your episodes. And good, bad, or indifferent, I think it's because the Ferengi episodes were family episodes. They were almost always, about my relationship with my brother and my nephew and my mother. And so those are family. And so I think they watched it. If they say that, which I don't agree with, but if they say that, it's because they recognize the family unit.
So we've got to jump to our free-for-all, everybody, in just a second here. Like I always say, other Star Trek series have families. Deep Space Nine is about family. Right. Before we hop over to the free-for-all, let's give a very special thanks to Homer Frizzell, Dr. Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, Carmen, a.k.a. Skillet, Timothy Baum, a.k.a. Grandpa One, everybody knows, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan, Titus Mohler, Darlena Marie, John Mann, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Diekman, Anna Post, Rex A. Wood, Anil O. Palat, Erika Stroem, Joe Balsarati, Mike Gu, DQ, Neal Akasaka. That was a good one.
That was a good one.
Justine Norton-Kertson, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, Radek Orszewski out in Southwest Poland, Henry Unger, live from Tokyo, Matt Boardman, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner. So we'll hit that free for all. I'm sorry, Armin.
Thank you to all of them. Thank you all.
Yes.
Absolutely. And thank you to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And also thanks to Bill Erickson, a.k.a. War Dog Heim. He's been very patient, and we love that guy. Everybody stick around. Armin will be back for this free-for-all. He doesn't know what he's getting into. And we'll be right back on the 7th Rule. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, Malissa, Longo, and Armin Shimerman.
Hello.
Yay.
We are doing the free-for-all now. It's going to be tons of fun because Homer Frizzell is here. And his friends, Mike Gu, Goldie Scott Jensen, Eve England is out in Wales. Carrie Schwent has some nice artwork behind her. Stephanie Baker is in Seattle. Anne-Marie and Sue Gruner, both of them doctors, both of them floating out in space. Mai is live from Tokyo with hardly any sun because it's like the crack of dawn there. Tierney C. Diekman is wearing an awesome Klingon necklace. And Matt Boardman, the man so fast, his background is blurred. Faith Howell is floating outside of Deep Space Nine. And we are going to have some fun, first and foremost, with the Peanut Hamper shirt. Wow, he's got his own theme music.
Hey,
wow.
Come on down.
Got theme music and the hand song.
Yeah. Homer, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us how you feel about this episode.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. I thought you were about the shirt, and I had an answer for that. But the episode itself, I mean, I was watching the very, very beginning there, and you have all of the guest cast for this episode. It's like, oh, great. I get to see all these people that I haven't seen for a while, but I've seen them along the way. It was like a really long list, so I enjoyed that. I didn't remember it completely. So I was like, wait a second. Okay. I thought it was Rom that became the Nagus, but I love the journey and just the whole thing and how they were able to juggle all of these different stories and move them all along. You know, it's 45 minutes, but it seemed like it was just like 10 minutes watching it. So really fun. Loved it. I think I would give this one a 10.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. You guys, what was I thinking? Thank you, Homer. Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
Oh, man, this was a great episode. I'm going to go with a 9.1. That's where I'm at.
Oh, you made Eve and Sue very happy with that one. On IMDb, it has an 8.2. So everybody go there right now and fix it. Mike Goo is pissed.
Caveat, not that many people have voted.
Ah.
So it was probably like people's exes.
we can get the numbers up.
Yeah.
Also, I only counted one non-appearance mention today. Did you guys get it or did you get more?
Just one, yeah.
I just got one as well.
Tane, right?
Mm.
Right.
Okay.
Disappointing compared to last week's, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Last week we had like 40. Anyway.
But some of that was because like so many people showed up in the episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huge amount of people. And the Kira and Damar and Garrick stuff was
and
so
Mila.
cool.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Mila, yeah.
I just love Mila.
That's another family. Mike Goo, how are you? It's been a while. Have you seen this episode recently?
Yeah, I recently and then this morning as well. I did do a recap. I will say that the thing that jumped out at me that I don't know that I recalled, but I must have seen it every time I've seen the episode is when Armin does the line that Picard does from First Contact. You know, that's far no further. What a great line, and you know what a great connection. I think it was 3 years after First Contact. At that time, and so I have to believe that it was in the writers' minds. But yeah, I really liked that moment.
And Armin, you said you recognized it right away when you saw it, right?
Right, absolutely. And as I said before, it rattled around in my head both as a quote and also as a Shakespearean moment because it's very Shakespearean. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right.
We went to that premiere, if I'm not mistaken, Armin. Weren't we at the was that First Contact movie?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think we were at that First Contact premiere on Hollywood Boulevard or something like that.
Yeah, we were indeed. We were invited. It's one of the few things we were invited to.
Yeah, it was. He's not lying though, but it was one of the few things, and it was I think it was on Hollywood Boulevard, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was around the Mall of Chinese. It used to be called the Grauman's Chinese.
Right.
It's now something else, but we were invited, and it was a glorious evening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Mike. That really jumped out at me too. That was like, I had forgotten all about that. Somebody we could never forget all about is Guldu Scott Jensen. How are you, Scott? Thanks for fixing up all of our audio and getting us all caught up with all of our audio podcast episodes.
It has been a lot of fun. Revisiting and visiting and then revisiting and just all over the place. It's been great. This episode was excellent again. Like Homer had said, so much is in this. I love the scene between Ben and Cassidy. Once again, what a realistic way to find out you're about to be a dad. He didn't just jump up and go, "I'm so happy, I love you." He didn't, freak out and slam and walk out the door. He got to the right place, and you could see him get to that right moment with her. And I thought it was a testament to their characters throughout this entire show and their development that they've all been through. And then speaking of development, the one thing that impressed me the most is how Julian finally achieved not being creepy with a woman. I think it finally paid off for him. So it was great. And Worf, what a bro move that was, just hitting that turbo lift right back down again.
So good.
What a great bro move, man. It's probably Worf's least teenage-like movement. Yeah, one of his shining moments there was, "Here you go, Dax. I got you, bro."
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, I forgot about that. We didn't talk about that. Sorry, go ahead, Cirroc.
No, I was going to say that the moment that got to me was when you say, "I've been infected. I've gone soft." You were realizing, wait a minute, I just sold you the bar for $5,000 without negotiating. I thought that was such a good moment.
The line is drawn here.
Yeah. I've gone soft.
By the way, everybody, the Picard action figure that Dr. Susan V. Gruner sent in also comes with a phaser. Look at that.
Oh,
wow. Too.
It's the phaser that never stops firing.
Lasting forever.
It
really?
almost.
You never see a phaser with a firing, actually.
It almost looks like a lightsaber.
Yeah.
And if take advantage of the phaser, tell a very quick story. That some of you may have heard before, but maybe not. When Paramount was sold to Viacom, the Viacom attorneys wrote to our prop guys, Bud and Pat, and Pat took me aside and said, "I just got this letter from one of the attorneys about the phasers," and he was smiling. He said, "I got to show this to you." So he dragged me back to his office. And the letter said, when you give the actors the phasers, you have to make sure that they're turned off. You cannot give it to them during. You can only give it to them when they're shooting. And then the moment the scene is over, you need to retrieve it. And because we don't want anybody to get hurt. And Pat and I were in hysterics and Cirroc knows this. You all know this. The only way you can get hurt by a phaser is if somebody throws it at you. Because it's just
yeah, you're not going to have
some high-paid lawyer was concerned about the lethal quality of a block of wood. Sorry if that changes your idea about phasers.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Those phasers are going for huge dollars now on auctions. Literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, some of them.
Yeah. Must be a testament to how realistic the special effects were, that somebody thought they were real.
Wow, so I had no idea you spent this much. Thank you.
It came with like a little coin, or not a pin
button.
of some
Pog.
Yeah,
it's
button.
Like a pog.
What does it say?
Star Trek.
Oh.
That's cool.
Oh, fun.
I'm glad you mentioned Pat and Bud too, though, really quickly, because they were some wonderful gentlemen. Those guys that ran the prop department. Mr. Muldikes, I think it was Pat Muldikes, if I'm not mistaken. But those prop guys were awesome people.
They were great. I remember shooting Far Beyond the Stars in the 7th season or the 6th. And Pat, who'd been there from day one, looked at me out of makeup. He says, "It's really hard to deal with you this way, Armin." He'd seen me thousands of times out of makeup. It wasn't that strange. But in front of the camera, it was very hard for Pat.
Poor guy. I hope he persevered. No stranger to perseverance. It's Eve England. It's like midnight where she lives out in Wales, almost midnight. How are you, Eve?
Yeah, good, thanks. I did have to struggle to stay up tonight, but definitely worth it. This is just such a good episode, and I just love, like everyone said, it's just tying up all of those loose ends, and everything is coming together. It's kind of really exciting, but also just really sad at the same time. But just a couple of points from the companion that I just thought were really interesting. So when I was watching it, when the Defiant has returned, and Bashir comment is going on about how he doesn't like the carpets, and I was watching, I thinking, surely they're the same carpets, because I'm assuming that they just brought back the same set that they had for the Defiant. But apparently there were some discussions as to, obviously, in reality, had it been brought back on the show, it would have been like the Defiant A or something. But obviously, for cost reasons, they had to keep it as the Defiant. So that was all done for sort of budget reasons. But what they did do is they said they did, but what they did say is they did give it a new carpet and a new lick of paint and a new sort of paint job just generally to kind of give it a slightly different feel, which I probably did. I would not have noticed had I read that, but that kind of explained that sort of really strange, what seemed strange throwaway comment in the scene. So I thought that was really clever. And I think they were saying the other bit I really liked was how they did have a drunk scene with Kira and Damar and Garrick in the basement, and that's why you see Kira with the bottle.
No, they cut that out.
And they cut it out. Yeah.
Oh wow!
I'd have loved to have seen that.
Find this.
Yeah, that was so much fun. And then just generally, this is just a completely whimsical thing that I was thinking about when I watched that. There seem to be so many more different perspectives of the station today. So that scene, I don't know, Armin, if you remember, I couldn't remember that sort of location where you went into the back office of the bar and you had all those beautiful bottles everywhere when you took that call from Zach. And I thought, wow, that's just amazing. And then you had the scene with Bashir and Esri in one of the little kiosks on the promenade that I didn't really recognize. And I was just thinking, wow, they just need to, do their equivalent of the sort of Galaxy's Edge for the station, and you could just go in and have this immersive experience. Because I was just thinking, I just want to see more of it. There's just so many nooks and crannies that we've obviously not seen yet, and I was just almost quite sad that we're sort of obviously at the end of it. But there's, there were still these joyous kind of props and scene setting that I hadn't noticed or reflected on before. So I think it's just a testament to how brilliant they did, even, putting all that effort in, even, right towards the end. So, yeah, I just thought that was amazing.
The was probably, as I remember, was part of the promenade. That's part of the permanent set. But the back room was constructed, I don't remember which soundstage it was on. It's probably not the promenade soundstage. Probably, was it 8 Cirroc that we use sometimes as a other stage, the one just north of us? Or maybe
4. 4
was the one south of us, so they might have constructed it in 4. Sometimes we used 8, but yeah, 7 was the soundstage. It might have been 4. 4 is where Ops was, and a number of things were on 4. So I think Herman Zimmerman said it's coming to the end. He's a scenic designer, and he said, "Give me some money so I can create some new sets." Yes, absolutely.
By the way, the carpet in the new Defiant is the same carpet at the Rio. So
excellent.
Tread carefully. Tread carefully.
Yes.
Real quick, I just was curious about that. Here is the layout for Paramount. So there was 4 here.
17. I said 7 and 17.
Yeah, 4, 17, and 18. Those were our 3. Yeah.
These guys right here. Okay.
And Next Generation was on 9 and 8.
Next Generation. 8 and 9 is Next Generation. And where you can't see, at least on my screen, you can't see. Above 15 was Planet Hell. That's where you're off on a planet somewhere. That's right there.
So this was all just Star Trek Lane right here.
Yeah, 9 and 8 was Next Generation. and
Voyager.
And Voyager. Eventually 6 and 5. I remember was like Jag, that show Jag.
Oh,
I think 5 was on Jag. Yeah.
And if I may take just a liberty, go ahead, finish the rock, and then I'll tell my quick thing.
Moesha was on 2 and 1.
Oh, cool!
If you guys want, I got all the layouts.
Knows about that.
Clueless was on 5.
Ryan, would you post that map one more time?
Yeah,
very quickly.
Sure.
And now we know where the chicken wings were.
Yep.
Yeah. The least resistance for the chicken
right here.
So 6
in Technicolor
across the street from 17 and 4. For those of you who have nothing to do and have followed my career, I did a show called Brooklyn Bridge right before doing Deep Space Nine. We shot on 6.
Wow.
And they were still shooting Brooklyn Bridge while we were doing our first season of Deep Space Nine. And you can see how easy it was for me to just cross the street and go from Deep Space Nine in the future to Brooklyn Bridge was in the 1950s. And I would just go back and forth in makeup often between the two shows. And I was very happy to do so. But that's enough.
Oh, wow.
I just want to point out that right here, you've got stage 8 and 9 that you were talking about with Next Generation and Voyager. You'll notice the street is drier. Any of you that have received any kind of perks from the Voyager documentary, you will notice drier is in the return address. So that's all we're going to say there. But just know that this is very likely where your perks are coming from, is right next to or on top of the Next Generation and Voyager former stages, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think. Speaking of pretty cool, Carrie Schwent is here, and it is fun time because she's going to tell us how she feels about this episode.
So good. I always love episodes that have my two favorite humans, Jason, Max. They are so adorable, especially when they're together. And Chase just has the best facial expressions in this episode. This one in the corner in particular. And she says Quark is going to think about it. And they both give good hugs.
Carrie, did you notice Chase's facial reaction in this episode when Quark said, what, no negotiation? At least let him give you a pedicure first. And she looks down and makes...
Yep. Yeah, by the way, did we need to see that pedicure?
No, I didn't. I would have it's a personal moment.
Absolutely.
We did need the Ferengi feet.
We did need the Ferengi feet.
And Quark did have another good Easter egg moment near the end when he says that Quark was going to be the last outpost of the old Ferengi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I love that. And I'm going to jump back to my haiku real quick, and then I've got a couple other quick things. So we've got brand new Defiant, Julian and Ezri smooch, Rom is new Nagus. And no offense, Golden Scott, sweetie, but all evidence to the contrary of Julian not being creepy. That scene in the elevator, he was looking a little bit creepy.
Yeah. But his creepy level and everybody else's are way different. So
which he was okay with it because she did smooch him, but for a second or two, he's like, holy stalker Batman.
Yeah, don't leave him in the elevator alone with her. Because he was behind her looking at her like, I got you. It was a weird look, I have to admit.
And there were way too many awkward scenes between the two of them too. Just one awkward conversation after another. They could have dropped one of those easy, and then that could have made room for the awesome. I want to see those three drinking together in the basement scene. That could have made room for that. And okay, I got that. Yeah. Sisko's reaction to Cassidy, the "Are you sure?" I rolled my eyes. I'm like, okay, men.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Just that knee jerk no offense to the guys, but male reaction. Like, are you sure? I wouldn't be telling you if I wasn't sure.
No, I'm just guessing. I just thought maybe.
Yeah. And at least Cassidy fought back up. Got him there a little bit. And the two of them snuggling at the end. If you watch closely, when she first leans into him, that giant ring of hers slowly just sort of falls to the side on her finger. And it ends up kind of pointing to the side. Just you can watch it slowly move over. And got that. Okay. And on a slightly serious note, Odo being pissed at Sisko, he had about not no, you're not allowed to give this cure to your people. Starfleet said so. I'd be pissed if Odo. I'd be pretty pissed too.
Mm-hmm.
And Sisko didn't seem. Sisko, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but he seemed to be okay with telling Odo that he wasn't allowed to, and that kind of annoyed me a little bit.
Yeah, I thought Renee did a very good job in that particular scene when he delivered the line to Sisko when he says, he says, interesting, isn't it? The Federation claims to abhor Section 31's tactics, but when they need the dirty work done, they look the other way. It's a tidy little arrangement, wouldn't you say? And he kind of gave that line very well, I thought, to Sisko, like, you're co-signing on this. Even, whether you like it or not, there's something wrong here. I like the delivery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Renee had some really good scenes in this one, and even more in the next one. My poor husband, he was never been able to pronounce Renee's last name very well, so he for years called him Renee Uberduber. And we actually got to meet him on
Renee Auberginois.
And we told him that. He thought it was hysterical.
It just means related to eggplant. French.
Speaking of which, when you were saying the names of the writers in the beginning, I was thinking of the way Avery says Renee's name, not Renee Auberginois, but the writer Renee Echeverria.
Mm-hmm.
We say Renee Echeverria, but Avery always says Echevarria.
He might be right. Because
I think that might be the way it's said.
That's how our good buddy Jack Trevino said it, who's also a writer. He said Renee Echeverria, and I'm like, that does sound right.
I think the American way is Echeverria, but I think it's really Echevarria. The way Avery always pronounces his name that way has stood out to me.
And Jack Trevino, of course, co-wrote or co-story-byed what was the one, Malissa, remind me, with the Ferengi going back in time?
Little Green Man?
Little Green Man, thank you, yes.
Yeah.
Excellent
with
one.
Tony Marbury, right?
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Partner.
Yeah.
All right. Mai is live from Tokyo. We bought you enough time to drink your coffee and wake up. How are you today?
Get the caffeine flowing through my veins. I'm good. I lots of great comments. My comments, it's very apropos that we've got our guest here today, because a couple of the quotes in the show that struck me as reminding me of other quotes from other things, I want to share. The first one was when Quark talks about his greed being a shining light to everyone, a testament to the rewards of avarice. It reminded me of something else from '87 when we heard greed is good. And blah, blah, blah. And greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA. It reminded me of that a lot. I thought it was...
What's that from?
Wall Street.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. So there was that one. And then Sisko, when he gets on the Defiant and he's talking to an inanimate object, he says, hello, ship. Now, I know that's a reference to something else, but what it reminded me of was... good night, room. Good night, moon. Good night, cow jumping over the moon. So anyway.
I thought you were going to say hello, computer.
No. Just being a bit silly today. And then the other quote that I liked that reminded me of something else was when he talks about taxes going against the very foundation of free enterprise. That's why it's called free. Jimmy Carter way back when said the tax code is a disgrace to the human race. And he was talking about it from a different perspective, but the words, the phrasing reminded me of that. And then finally, we did need that pedicure. because that was important. Yesterday, I went to the nail salon. I was inspired by that. I did not know that you were going to be here today, Armin. But I was inspired, and I went with the same color.
Whoa, hang on. Let me spotlight you. Hang on. Look at that. Wow. Excellent. Beautiful. Except for one.
That's mirrored. That's silver.
Excellent.
We need a bit of sparkle on both sides. So you get a star over here, and you get a galaxy or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's for Quark
Ferengi blue.
That's right.
I think you're one of the few people that knew that Quark had blue fingernails. Most people never see that at all.
Ferengi blue, Tiffany blue. We can work with that. Yeah, I felt good about it. And then this morning when I saw you, I'm like, I gotta show this. So yeah, there you go. That was fun.
Armin, do you remember getting your toenails done for that episode? Because that's obviously something unusual, right? Makeup on your feet.
I don't remember getting my toenails done. I know Karen took great delight in shaving my body whenever they showed parts of my body. I don't remember. I don't remember getting my toenails done. Not at all.
Yeah, because I can only imagine having makeup on my feet. It's like it's. I mean, you've got it everywhere else at this point, but it's just like on your feet too. It's like, wow, that's. I'm sure you have to wash that off to put your shoes back on or whatever. I would have liked to see you. I would have liked to see you on the set that day with a sandal on with your blue tailnet. That would have been great. There's got to be photos of that. Still,
there must be someone.
Yeah.
Well, we've got somebody here that matches Quark's and Mai's nails to a T, and that is Dr. Susan B. Gruner here in her blue shirt. How are you today, Sue? We were talking about you earlier. Oh, how are you?
I'm great. I love the episode. I am sad that it's almost over. Such a great show, but I can't say anything bad about this episode. It's all good. I loved Worf's line. He's an overgrown child.
And she is confused.
Yes, right. And of course, Quark's delivery of his long spiel about what's happening on Ferenginar is just fabulous. But I do have a question about birth control. During the conversation that Sisko was having, she said one of us forgot to have an injection. So I got to thinking, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, did they both have birth control injections, or is one enough in the future? Are men actually the ones getting injections? Because that would be, I want to go to that future where a woman don't have to. But so Sisko didn't have his injection. Mm-hmm. But she made it sound like they both
Cassidy
needed injections. This has nothing to do with anything important, but still, I thought about it. Are they taking injections, both male and female, in the future to prevent pregnancy?
Well, it's a lot better than the force field condoms that were invented. So I guess they do injections instead.
That's an excellent question, and I'm tempted to get in touch with Ira and find out if they both needed an injection or just one. Just the male needed to have an injection. That's a fascinating question, and I want an answer. So I hope to get something back to you guys by next week. And
it's interesting because women, when we take the pill, it doesn't matter. The guy doesn't need to do anything. And it's been my complaint my entire adult life. Why can't my husband, why can't you have a little snip, but men
don't say little.
You can edit this out if you want later. But why is it always up to the woman is my point. And I wrote down, wow, I want to be in that future where the men are the ones that are taking responsibility.
Go for the big snip. That's my theory.
But why would both have to do something? I'm thinking but it makes it sound like she made it sound like they were both doing something.
One of us. She said one of us.
But it's just the guy. Why would she need to do anything?
Well, it's probably something where just everybody has that unless they're trying to have a child. So that way you don't have to worry about if the other person is being responsible in that regard or not. But we're also going to have Mr. Ira Stephen Bear on next week. So hopefully Armin
ask about birth control.
Well, hopefully Armin will ask for
inquiring minds want to know.
Well, maybe there's a way, if both of them are taking it, it cuts down the risk. Because there's always still a risk no matter what birth control you're using, but maybe if both people are taking it, it minimizes the risk even greater.
Yeah. Or they alternate.
Just a guess.
I don't know.
Just a guess.
This month it's your turn, next month is mine.
That could
she
be
did say one of us. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there'd be too much room for making a mistake. I thought it was your turn. No, it was your turn.
Did you have anything else for us, though, Sue? Speaking of,
no, besides it's a 10. No,
that's what we're waiting for. All right. Dr. Stephanie Baker out in Seattle, keeping warm and bundled up. How are you today?
Hi, everybody. I'm doing pretty good. I just was with Mike Goo in New Jersey, so I'm kind of sad that I'm far away from him at the moment, but at least I get to see him on the Zoom. I really enjoyed this episode. It's also sad knowing that it's coming to an end, but I'm a sucker for romance. So I really enjoyed the romance scene with Bashir and Ezri. It was just fun. And then there's so much comedy in this episode, especially with the Grand Nagus and the static and Quark thinking that he was going to be the Grand Nagus and that whole thing. And, I remembered when I rewatched it, but it's still so funny the way everybody's thinking it's going to be Quark. And Brent is trying to get on Quark's good graces. And in the end, it's really Rom. That whole thing was just really, really well done. And I had a comment about the birth control as well. I believe that there was a reference in Voyager to the injections, and that it is both genders get the injection, both parties get injections, but then it doesn't quite make sense if one doesn't have theirs. Right. You would think that would be sufficient. So it's not a very effective control then.
Still can't figure it out, those guys. Even 400 years in the future. All right. Tierney C. Diekman is here. How are you today, Tierney?
And I am wonderful. And I just realized, Armin, I don't know if Star Trek actors find this strange or not, but I am drinking out of a mug with your face. That must be strange. Sometime.
Awesome.
But
I don't know if they find it strange. I find it flattering. So thank you.
I'm so glad, because we actually, now that I think of it, wear shirts with Ryan's stylized face and Rock's and Aaron's, and we need yours, Malissa, too. Like we need Malissa eyes as well.
Mm-hmm.
We always pressure her into making shirt designs, like, because she's an artist, and everybody's like, we need Malissa to make all these shirts. It's like she has enough on her plate, but get on that one. We need your face. You have to be the one to do it.
For Christmas sales.
There you go. But there are two very big and very important things about this episode that really stand out, and that is the timelessness that it really encompasses as far as the whole of Star Trek and just sci-fi and this episode in general. And a lot of that too is due to and also something that stands out with the performances of everybody. And you couldn't really have that without the just amazing troupe of actors that you have with the series in general, and how the chemistry has worked so well. And then the writers and what they have brought everything up to. the best part of this episode in particular being everything to do with the Ferengi.
The magnificent Ferengi.
Oh my God. This, I always feel like we've gone through it. It's like, this could be a Lost Ferengi episode because they've done Magnificent Ferengi and they kind of ended these specific Ferengi episodes, but this is a very Ferengi heavy episode. And the timelessness kind of rolls into that, and not just with what's very poignant today with the rebellion on Cardassia and everything that we don't have to point out how it's relevant, but then listening especially to Rom and Quark's little, it's not a tete-a-tete, it's kind of a one-sided conversation with Rom talking in the background over Quark, next to Quark, up and down and through the bar. And it's, I mean, even just today in the US, having just had the midterms, hearing Quark's side of things and Rom's as Ferenginar is changing to, thank goodness, a much more democratic society. And then he goes into his speech, and of course, the magnificent Picard reference. Every time my husband and I watch through that episode, we have to say that, you know, that line must be drawn here. And it's, but just everything to do with them really stands out in those performances, everyone's, and the character arcs. Quark's specifically is perfect. And I love that he didn't become Nagus. And I love that Ferenginar started to learn that Moogie had an influence. It wasn't just, well, we have a couple of episodes where feminism, hooray, it's the 90s, we're going to play on this, and it just doesn't go anywhere. It actually made a change, and it did something. And Quark grows as a character. Even though he started to get soft, he still had changed, and was very gracious towards allowing his brother to be the perfect new Nagus for the new Ferenginar. And it's just wonderful. And I could watch them over and over and over again. And then again, falls into performances. Zex is great. And even mentioned with the static, did you put it in our little chat here, that we have captions in some of them. If you watch anything with captions, that kind of ruin it, because they say what's happening underneath that static, including Zex swearing. And when I rewatched it, it didn't ruin it. So I don't know if it changed it for the DVD versions, but they used to ruin it, and they said that he was trying to reach Rom and not Quark. So if anybody watched it back in the day with captions, that ruined it. But then performances, it was Avery who directed this episode, and he did a magnificent job with everyone. And back to Casey as Damar. I mean, they cast Damar as a role well above its weight class with Casey's talent. And just like how Quark grew throughout the series, it was fantastic from start to finish. And the chemistry that he has with Kira, with Garrick, with all of that, and Mila. God, I love Mila. Their little family too. We have kind of two big families here, and Cassidy and Sisko. Everyone's coming together, tying up ends. The chemistry, it just these performances, and they bring in the timelessness and come all around full circle revolutions of everywhere. It just, God, it could go on for forever about how magnificent it is. But I did have one last point. So Odo, I didn't even realize that this is the episode that, till now, that Odo finds out that it was Section 31 that infected him. And he's all right, yeah, it's war, I get it. But that's no excuse for genocide. But when they created the Founders virus, and this had to start before, Paradise Lost, or whatever that was, that episode, 2 for 3 for. the Dominion War hadn't started yet. They were a threat, but the war had not begun, and they had already done this. We suck. Like, as the Section 31, the Federation, because everybody was involved, like, dear Lord, come on. But yeah, I definitely recommend for anybody to go back in, get the companion notes or memory alpha, find your research. There is so much to this episode. So much. And it's wonderful.
It's really, great stuff. Matt Boardman is here. What's up, Matt? He's like, I know he's going to call on me next.
I knew it was me. So yeah, no, I love this episode. I mean, everybody's talked about some really great moments in it. I love that we get, the new Defiant. I love that moment where Sisko sits down in his chair and it's, that one shot on him and he says, "Hello, ship." It's just kind of that intimate moment. But I'm a ship guy, so I like that kind of stuff. It's so interesting to me, like at the beginning where we get Kira and Garrick and Damar, and they're like, they're on this high, like we're marching into this, we're heading into this, and the rug just gets completely pulled out from underneath them, and I thought that was great. And we get introduced to, I like to call him the Dwight Schrute of the Cardassian Empire, the new gull there that rats them out, he does everything that he can to suck up to it. And I don't know why, but it reminds me of Dwight Schrute. So, but this, everybody's talked about the Ferengi stuff in this episode, and listening to everybody's comments, I just thank goodness for Deep Space Nine, because I love the way that the series treated the Ferengi. I mean, I look at The Last Outpost and where we were with the Ferengi, and and I always chuckle at that, but then we get them in Deep Space Nine, and the writers and the actors, it just, everything came together in such a great and wonderful way to flesh out this species. And I had the weird thought that it's like every now and then in the story, it's we get bits of dialogue and everything that remind me that this is actually an alien race. And I don't know about anybody else, but sometimes as I'm watching this, like, I love the characters of Deep Space Nine so much that at times I forget that, Odo is a changeling, Kira's Bajoran, we have humans, we have this, like, just this hodgepodge of characters that come together to make this tapestry that is Deep Space Nine. And I forget that everybody is different and unique in their own ways, only because they're just who they are. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just love that. And it's like every now and then it's like, now in this one we get, Ron becoming the Nagus, and it's like, we get the different things, and Brunt coming in and his fantastic groveling. Although I would maybe in this case, Brunt was probably the Dwight Schrute of this, the assistant to the regional manager here. So,
Matt, I would agree with you, and I think Armin maybe would agree with me too, that the stories that we're telling are really just about the human experience more so than it is about alien races and totally. The differences between each of us, physically at least, the appearance wise. It's more about the natural kind of instincts that we all have as far as protecting loved ones and then falling in love and caring for family and all of those things. Armin, I've heard you say that you felt like your character was one of the most human characters. And, I would kind of agree with that, in the sense that we don't really judge these characters and by their race or origin, more so by their behavior and personalities.
Mm. Yes, I've said that many times, so I won't reiterate that. But yes, you're absolutely right. And one of the things that I think that the study of the Ferengi does, and this is a personal agenda of mine, the Ferengi are ugly. they look ugly, and they have strange features. And so immediately, and granted, in TNG, they were meant to be ugly beings, and that's the way they originally thought. And so we have a hard time identifying with these ugly creatures because they're so different than we are. But eventually we come to find out, you know what? They're not that much different than we are, no matter what they look like. And it's not just the skin color, it's that they're ugly. They're how many times did Kira call the Ferengi toads or, weasels or whatever? but so I like that. I like that a lot, that we are taught to respect the existence of people that we don't necessarily are a part of, or we respect the existence of people that we wouldn't naturally be attracted to right away. I mean, on TV, in film, why do they, in American films anyway, why do they always cast beautiful people in parts where if you read the parts, you would go, these aren't beautiful people, but they cast actors that are beautiful because they want you to identify with. I love the fact that all of you and everybody else has grown attached to a group of people that are ugly, disfigured, repugnant.
Mm-hmm. Wow, good point. Matt, did you have anything else for us?
There's two other things. This is the episode that Avery, that we hear What We Left Behind, that Avery told Casey to just glide. And then the last thing about Sisko finding out that Cassidy was pregnant reminded me of when I found out my ex-wife was pregnant with our second child. She sat me down with our son and handed me a book to read. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, this is a cute book. And then it got to this part where it talks about a baby sister. And I just kind of sat there for a moment and I went, and I kind of looked at her and I was like, and she's like, come on, you got to give me a better reaction than that, I'm just like, Mom,
are you sure?
I don't know. Yeah. Is it mine? No, I'm just kidding. That's my ex-wife now.
Matt.
I'm kidding. And now you know why I'm not married anymore. No. Anyway, but am I blushing? But no, yeah, just a great episode, and as I finished it, I kind of went, okay, well, what's next? And I was like, oh man, that's right, this is it. And the next one is the last episode, So this was just kind of like all right, get ready, because here we go.
Indeed, get ready, because here we go into Marie Segal's turn. How are you today, Anne-Marie?
Well, it's just so sad this is the end of the run. And also, I always get starstruck when Armin's here because Quark was major deal in our house. He was on our entertainment center and just kind of going off of the human condition and everything. I mean, Quark and the Ferengi were a major deal, and in Deep Space Nine, making them three-dimensional, and they came to kind of represent alienated against groups of people who maybe aren't mainstream beautiful or maybe have features like, quote, like stereotypically big noses, or you really grew to love them, and it didn't matter how they looked. It was just about their persona, and he meant a lot, and it's just wonderful to have you here. And the other thing I'll say is I'm currently listening to the audiobook of Illyria, Volume 1, and it's so good. I just enjoyed it so much. And the Tudors exhibits at the Met, so it's like perfect timing to be just binging Tudor everything, and it fits in perfectly with my month.
Anne-Marie, can you tell everybody where you purchased that?
Through Jumpmaster Press, and there's a Kickstarter going on right now. But I had actually already bought the audiobook through the website, and I'm waiting. I mean, I also have a hard copy that I got autographed, but I need to buy 2 and then pre-order 3.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Ramon Diacampo, who does the narration, is a phenomenal actor who I've known for years. And as I said to Ramon, I'm very proud of my book but I think Ramon makes the book even better by his narration.
It's so good. I'm loving it. I'm a few hours in. It's amazing.
Wow.
And if I may be a Ferengi for just a moment,
please
piggyback on what Anne-Marie just said. My third book comes out in January the 24th, and there's not only a Kickstarter campaign where you get perks with the book, but if you go to Jumpmaster Press, you can put in a pre-order for the book will come from the 24th. My dogs are all very excited about that.
Armin, Carrie asked if it'll be on Audible.
Ramon has asked that question as well. At this point, I don't think it is, but something we should look into.
It's really cool. And everybody, you should go look into that and go get your copies right away. If you forgot what we all said.
Is that Jumpstart? What is that? Yeah,
Jumpmaster Press.
Jumpmaster Press. Okay. I'm sure Ryan's going to leave the link.
Yeah, we'll include that in the links below. But also, guys, if you want to keep it easy on yourselves, just go find Armin on social media, and he'll be tweeting and retweeting all that stuff, and follow whatever link takes you there. Faith Howell is back. You disappeared for a second. So glad to see you again. How are you? And how much did you love this episode?
I had to go get juice for the baby. He's very demanding. I love this episode, of course, like exponentially as we go through this last arc we have here. And of course, I'm going to focus on my favorite because you guys cover everything else so beautifully. I couldn't add to or top anything that you guys have said. But my favorite scene, of course, is the basement scene. I love Mila. I love how the three of them play off of each other in that basement in a very magical way. All right, he wants to say hi.
Hey, what's up, dude?
So, we can't hear you anymore.
Oh, wait, the volume just went down.
About what all went on when she was out in the street and how everybody's talking about them. And she says, and they think that you're planning your next move from a secret mountain hideaway. And Garrett says, I didn't know you had a secret mountain hideaway. And Damar is so deadpan and he goes, I was going to surprise you.
Brilliant line.
Every time I've seen it a million times, and I still laugh out loud.
So good.
And I just I wanted to add, I remember when this episode came out, I think whatever day of the week it was, that day of the week where maybe the next day, the novelization of the final episode came out, and I rushed to the bookstore and I grabbed it. And so I had a little spoiler that I had just finished because I had to know like what was going on in this basement was like the entire everything. I had to know what was going to happen to these three in particular. I love everybody else. And of course I love how everything gets tied up, but I had to know what was going on in that basement and what's going to happen to Kira, what's going to happen to Damar. And of course we love Garrick, and his book that came out around the same time was also spectacular. If you haven't read it, go find it.
Was that A Stitch in Time?
Yeah, it's coming out on audiobook sometime soon, we've heard. So I can't wait. I've already read it, but I'm going to have that too.
Right. Wow, great stuff. Well, that's about it for us. Cirroc, any final thoughts before we run? Figuratively?
I did have a final thought. First of all, I was going to say, blame it, na Brentaine.
You used that joke 3 years ago, Cirroc.
And I gotta recycle that because I just every time I hear his name, that song comes in my head. But no, this is my little last final takeaway. They had a scene in this episode where they were inside of a little trinket shop that was selling necklaces and earrings and jewelry and stuff, right? And I just thought to myself, the shop with the trinkets really never goes out of style. There's always going to be a trinket shop. There probably was one back in the pyramid days, all the way till the future. There's always going to be that one little booth that's set up that's got like beaded necklaces and really cool jewelry. And I just thought, wow, that's a business model that just lasts forever. So that's my last final point.
Business model.
You always find those stories everywhere you
go. Yeah, trinkets.
Oh, I did also like the rules for the Nagus, the ones that said navigate the waves of the great material continuum, avoid the shoals of bankruptcy, and seek the strong wind of prosperity. I thought that was very well written. It just sounded eloquent.
And I kind of imagine that was what one Nagus always says to the new Nagus. It just right. It felt like it was some kind of thing that they always pass along.
Yes.
All right. Well, Armin, thank you so much for being a part of this show from episode 4 all the way to episode 194. We really appreciate you. And we're going to be banging down your door when Last Outpost comes up on the Next Generation. We can't wait to see you again.
A lot of explaining.
Well, you've set it up so well. You've mentioned it a few times, and now we're like, all right, let's see it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and it's amazing to me that I was here for the 4th episode, and this is what, the 180th something. So, and thank you all for watching and for espousing not only our show, but the franchise as well. I've heard a lot of wonderful things said about not only my work, but other people's work here today and other times. You can't imagine how gratifying that is, because as an actor, as a theater actor, we hear that response immediately when you're on stage. You hear that. But when you're on film or TV actor, there's never response. You can, if you want to, I suppose you can pick up a magazine and see it there, but you never get response. You just work in a vacuum, and it is glorious to not only hear the good points, but the bad points and what interests people. That's just lovely. So thank you for your participation. Thank you, Ryan and Cirroc and Aaron, who's not here with us, but for starting this project and making it possible for everybody to be a community and speak their minds. Thank you.
Basically, thanking you.
Yes, and we love, and then please give our love to Kitty as well. And you've just been so amazing and supportive, Armin, from the beginning. You've been really lending your voice to the work we're doing here, and you've been completely supportive, as well as all of the people that have come on the show. But thank you, Armin and Kitty, for just really giving us all of you and being available for us to kind of go over this stuff. You've been super amazing, so thank you for that.
All right. Well, Armin, I wish there were some cool things I could say to you, but I think we've covered it all. You know how we feel about you, and we appreciate everything you do. And we appreciate how unbelievably supportive you've been of this show and this community in particular. It's really cool of you to give us your time that is so valuable so often, and words cannot describe how much this is so good. I love it. Anyway, thank you so much, Armin. We hope to see you again real soon. And we also want to say thank you to my Malissa Longo, of course, Mike Goo, Carrie Schwent, Eve England, Goldu Scott, Homer, Sue, Stephanie, Matt, Faith, Tierney, and Anne-Marie. And Faith's, I see a little head back there. There you are. Tierney had a pup popping in. All of you. We didn't see Mochi this week.
Mike's, she's sleeping on the bed.
Oh, look at this.
Mike had
Hang on one second. Look at this.
So cute. Awesome. Sorry to hear about Cersei.
All right. Thank you all very much. Everybody at home, we appreciate you joining us. Keep the conversation going in the comments below, and we'll see you next time. Until then, always remember the 7th rule.